What's up, y'all? Pat. And I've been hearing about this video floating around. It's Jordan Peterson, and it's called Jordan Peterson on Tinder and one night stands, man. So I'm super excited to listen to it. Let's get into it.
The Tinder phenomenon. That's because that's also a major technological revolution, because what it's done, I would say, for the first time, is reduce the cost of rejection to males to zero, because it hides it. The only people you ever hear from are people who haven't rejected you. One of the other things that you want to think about with regards to sex, and I think this is probably particularly true for women, is that to what degree is it in women's interests to allow the cost of sex to fall to zero? Because with pornography certainly does that. And it just seems to me that that's not a very good long-term strategy for relationships between men and women, because whatever sex is worth, the cost of zero is the wrong price.
I've been very curious about apps like Tinder. And I talked to Abigail Schreier about this the other day, because there's some evidence that young people are having much less sex than they were 20 years ago. And so I've wondered with apps like Tinder if what's happening is that a small number of men are getting a tremendous amount of sexual attention from women, and a huge number of men are getting none at all. And the guys that are attractive, say on Tinder, then have their selection. They have women.
This is exactly what's going on, right? Like, most dudes aren't smashing chicks, and even if like, most dudes aren't even, they just don't even have the opportunity, for sure. Like, the average 21-year-old girl, in comparison to like even like the 30-year-old, the average 30-year-old man, it's not even remotely close, right? Like, most dudes can't get girls. I think a lot of women don't really understand that, but most dudes, I mean, y'all know, man. A lot of maybe even you, right? Like, you might not be able to get girls, or dudes that that just, they're struggling a lot. So, I think that's why a lot of men, like, if they do settle down in their 20s, they're with women that they don't really like. That's for another video, man. I agree with what he just said. That I believe that's what it is. Is that you got? I mean, it's like it's a really popular statistical fact, or in the RP community right now, right? Where like like the women are chasing like the top X percentage of men, and like the rest of the men are just getting the scraps, just whatever's left.
Women who've already said yes, because that's the only people you communicate with on Tinder, if I understand it correctly. They have all these women at their disposal, essentially, and then almost no incentive, unless they're mature, to have a committed relationship. And so that puts the women in a terrible bind too, because the men that they find attractive are uncatchable in some sense, because the competition level is too high. I don't think that's in anybody's good interest. But I particularly think it's not in the good interest of young women. I also don't think it's in the good interest of young men, because I think it teaches them to be psychopathic predators. I mean that. I don't see there's any way out of this, because if you repeatedly practice taking sexual intimacy out of the broader context, that's what you're practicing. Well, how is that not? It's shallow, because it's shallow by definition, because it's only the pursuit of hedonistic pleasure decontextualized. You don't know the person, you don't know their story, you're not in.
You will know within a few days exactly why you do the things you do. What this week is about,
Tony,
is getting
involved in an ongoing adventure. You're not contributing to one another's lives. You're not dependent on each other. There's no relationship there. So then what is it? So then is it, if you practice interacting with women, but also with men, if you're a woman, as if they're a source of instant context-free gratification, how are you not training yourself to treat human beings as if they're nothing but instant sources of context-free gratification? It's like, what's the proper domain for sexual morality? What are the right rules? Don't do anything with anyone that you couldn't talk to them about. If you feel uncomfortable talking about what you're doing, you don't have a level of psychological intimacy that should allow for that level of physical intimacy, obviously. Also, it's a rule of thumb. I would also say that generally, if you're female and young and attractive, it's in your best interest and in the best interest of the person that you're dating to say no for as long as you possibly can. If for no other reason, then it's without that, well, where's the game? There's no game. And you talked about the chase, you know, and we have no idea how much deprivation proper romance requires. But the answer is definitely not zero, because look, why otherwise? What you meet up with Tinder, let's say, you go to a special room, you both watch pornography, you each have an orgasm, that's your date. Well, why not do that? If that's what it's about, that's simple. There's no mess. Obviously, nobody thinks about that as ideal, and that would be the extreme case of contextless sexual gratification. But it's really wrong. It's wrong. It just doesn't serve anyone. It's terrible, and that's the case with this endless stream of available pornography. It's a catastrophe. Any boy can see more sexual imagery than anyone ever saw in their whole life 30 years ago. It's absolutely appropriate for young women to insist that they be treated the way they would like to be treated. You should insist upon that. Well, your partner should as well insist upon that treatment for him. But so you have to sit down and think about, well, how would you like to be treated? If you could have what you wanted, actually have it.
I wanna touch on the pornography thing real quick. No, it's true, man. Because you know, and we'll see it. We'll see. You know, the studies will come out eventually, right? All this stuff is still just so new, but a lot of these teenage boys and stuff like this, man, they're gonna have a lot of issues. I'm calling it right now. There's probably already like studies for all I know. There's gonna be a lot of issues with young men and like women. Just even a dude in 10 years, a 20-year-old young man, even physically talking to a woman, like in public, right? Like face to face, that's gonna be an issue for the majority of men. It's already an issue for a lot of men now. A lot of men, between just the fear of talking to women, between like all the feminist / Me Too movements and stuff, like a lot of men are freaking terrified just to approach women in public. You say the wrong thing, can be taken out of context. You know, you can sometimes get in legal trouble, man. So, but with the porn, holy cow, it's not real. What you're seeing on your phone compared to real life, it's not real, and it's going to condition these young men to not be able to interact with real women.
I do believe, though, that that's the case, that no is the right answer most of the time. It's disciplined, that's part of it. It's provocative, that's part of it. It's guarding a secret, it's defending a treasure, it's adding some of the game. And it's a demand that certain preconditions have to be met. And it's the insistence that you be regarded as a complete person. And now, you know, it's going to be tempting to young women too to separate their sexuality and say, well, I can go for instantaneous gratification just like a man. But I do believe that men and women both pay a tremendous price for instantaneous sexual gratification. I'm absolutely convinced of that. But I do believe that women pay a higher price. And the reason for that is that sex is more dangerous for women. And so its capacity to produce catastrophe is heightened in women. Think that sex is okay without romance, you don't know anything about romance, because sex is so much better with romance that it's not even the same thing. So that's all important, but as you get older, what's important is that, well, you have a family, you have your children, you have your grandchildren, you have a continuity of narrative, you have a long-term relationship that you've built. That's what's important. And when you're doing things impulsively when you're young, you're not paying attention to the old you. You have to have the old you in mind. You're going to be old, and you have to be building towards that, or you're going to be old and things are going to be a catastrophe. So don't this idea that you said, well, I can be just like those men. It's like, well, that isn't even the men you want. Why would you imitate the men that you don't want? I think that by and large women do. If they see that, they do respond to it. But there's a disconnect sometimes. The simple rule breaking isn't differentiated from the sophisticated rule breaking. And so you want to watch that, because that can get you in trouble, right? Because you'll be attracted to the rebel, antisocial type because you think he's a rule breaking hero, but he's not. It isn't that he's not a conformist, that he couldn't fit in. That's not the same thing. You want someone who could fit in but breaks the rules. Well, that's back to Hermione. I mean, that's her gift, isn't it? That's her, and the whole Harry Potter crowd, for that matter, is they can fit in. In fact, they're very good at it. They choose when to break the rules.
Yeah, so I think it's important what he was saying with the whole that women are getting this instant gratification through, sex, right? And kind of going back to what I was saying a few minutes earlier with whole, if you compare the 30-year-old man's sexual partners compared to the average 21 or 22-year-old girl's sexual partners, like just sheer body count, it's not even remotely close, right? Some of these women have tens and tens of bodies at such a young age, and then they wonder why Mr. Right can come along, right, and they still just aren't quite happy enough. It's never enough, because you have lost your pair bonding ability. You, as a woman, being able to pair bond is so freaking important. And when you've had all these sexual partners, man, you can't do it. One meet isn't gonna be enough. Like, right? Like, you slept with 30 dudes. By the age of 23, you slept with 30 dudes, right? And you swindled a man into committing to you under false pretenses that you have a low body count, right? And then y'all get married and stuff like that. Everything's good for a while, and then just the SCX isn't enough. It's not enough. So you can't have that genuine connection, man. All those souls you've had inside you, man. Like, think about, like, those are souls. You've had souls inside you. We know good and well, a lot of women, depending on the dude, if the dude's their type, man, they're not making that dude even wear a condom, man. So you've had literal souls in you. You wonder why one man can't make you happy. Dangerous game, man. Enjoy the video, man. Big salute to Jordan Peterson. This dude's he's a very intelligent guy, man. I enjoy, he's a great speaker. Great speaker. Hope you enjoy this video. Like, share, subscribe. More content coming soon. Talk to y'all soon. God bless.